Hi guys. So you requested to see my wonderful face, my smiling face, as you guys watch these video clips, and so here you go. Today, the first thing that you need to do if you missed class today was to write at least 7 lines, considering continuity and change over time. How has the impact of religion on Europe since the Renaissance been shown? How does that happen? Do you think it's more one than the other? Kind of go through some of the basics from the Renaissance up till now. Once you've done that, you're going to make sure that you need to hand that in to me, so at least you get the credit, the 1 point credit for the type 1 writing. Um, just kind of set the stage here, the political slash religious climate in the Holy Roman Empire. We really have to go back to 1517, Martin Luther, 95 Theses, and we see the Protestant Reformation going on, and that's kind of overtaken Europe, whether it's the Protestants or the Calvinists, whoever it might be. We have some um, warfare going on, we have some little skirmishes, we have discontent amongst the Christian Europeans. And so we have the Peace of Augsburg in 1555 to try and settle that at least a little bit. It's between the Catholics and the Lutherans. They're basically saying, okay, we agree not to fight each other anymore in an effort to try and quiet down some of the tensions that are going on in Europe during that time period. We're all Christians, we can learn to get along, and the Peace of Augsburg sets up, okay, in the Holy Roman Empire, at the top is the emperor himself, and he is Catholic. But the princes, the localized princes, they have the choice basically whether they'd like to be Lutheran or whether they would like to be Catholic. No Calvinists. Calvinists, if you want to practice things in your own home, fine, that's one thing, but you can't be doing that outside of your house. And this, in theory, is a nice idea, and this gives some latitude for the princes, allows them to listen to the will of the people. But ultimately, the Protestant princes get together and they say, okay, well, in order to make sure that the Catholics don't overtake us in any way or force us to practice Catholicism, we are going to start the Protestant Union. And the Protestant Union is just kind of a loose conglomeration, but hey, we're going to work together and make sure that the Catholics don't overtake us in any way. The offshot of that, though, is going to be the Catholic League, because the Catholics look at that and react and say, well, if you're going to have that, we need to make sure the Protestants don't get too powerful. And so we are going to create the Catholic League to do much the same thing. And this is really similar to the Peloponnesian War with the Delian League and then Peloponnesian League formed by Athens and Sparta following the Persian War, the Battle of Thermopylae in the 300 and all that good stuff. But it's very, very reactionary, and it goes to a larger issue here of the balance of power in Europe. Here we're speaking specifically according to religion, but later on that's going to be really important as these different nationalities start to form, as kind of countries begin to form. And the question here at large is sovereignty. Who has the power to rule over everybody else? Who has the power of the government? Where is that power derived from? Who has the power to tax, the power to use the military, etc.? Is it the power of the people, what we would call popular sovereignty? Or is it, as we'll see, absolutism, the idea that the kings and monarchs have a divine right to rule given to them by the gods, whatever religion it might be. So we have the Peace of Augsburg, 1555, but that's not going to last very long because of the defenestration of Prague. Defenestrate means to throw somebody, or in some cases, something out a window. This is actually the second defenestration of Prague, but we're not really going to get into the first one in the 1400s. This one is occurring in reaction to the Catholic Church saying, okay, we are no longer dealing with the Peace of Augsburg. We're going to kind of let that go by the wayside. Instead of practicing religious tolerance, we're kind of not going to do that anymore. And the messengers who deliver this are in a tower in Prague, in what is the modern day Czech Republic. You'll hear it referred to as Bohemia in the Holy Roman Empire. And the Protestants are marching down the street in protest of this. Legend says that a rock was thrown by the window and struck the leader of this protest, resulting in the Protestants storming the town council building, going up the steps, and throwing two of the Catholic messengers out the window. And the Catholics will say that the angels' wings brought them down slowly enough to where they were able to survive. Both of these people were able to survive. The Protestants look at it and say, no, they fell 70 feet and landed in a big pile of manure, and that's what enabled them to survive. But regardless, the Holy Roman Emperor looks at this and says, Protestants, Lutherans, you can't just do that. And so the reaction to that is going to end up being the 30 Years' War. What I'm covering here to a degree is going to be covered in the video clip on the next slide that I encourage you to watch. It's Tom Ritchie. He does a really nice job of setting things up, both causes, the details, and the aftermath of the 30 Years' War. But the basics here, there are four phases of it: the Bohemian phase, the Danish phase, that's people from Denmark, the Swedish phase, and the French phase. Um, these four phases, we need to remember the order, and Tom Ritchie is going to go over kind of the details of each one, but create some sort of acronym. I chose an acronym that attempted to detail what exactly is going on here, beginning to diffuse secular fighting. The idea that secular fighting is going to begin to spread from here on out. Religious fighting, religious warfare is kind of going by the wayside. And we're going to see that from here on out. And so the 30 Years' War, its importance is really about um, the changing style of warfare in Europe. It's a turning point. We're getting away from strict religious conflict. Religion is no longer going to be the be all end all for each leader. It's more so going to be similar to what we talked about with Elizabeth and these politiques, a means to an end, a way to try and control people or give them a moral compass, but it's not going to be the only thing that people are identifying themselves as. We're leading towards development of national identities. And so people will think of themselves as French. Eventually, people will think of themselves as German. We'll see the rise of Prussia after the 30 Years' War. And so it comes back to this idea of balance of power. That lands are moving towards consolidating in a region as opposed to trying to figure out, okay, what is this overarching religion that we need to be a part of? So please make sure that you go ahead and watch the 15 or 16-minute video clip from Tom Ritchie on the next slide. And after you do that, we'll continue on to the next part here. This is the Treaty of Westphalia or Westphalia, 1648. You also hear it called the Peace of Westphalia. And the two maps that you can look at here, basically the before and after, but especially if you look at the after map, you see the border of the Holy Roman Empire has changed. We no longer see Spain as a part of it. The Netherlands is beginning to kind of leave this. And again, we'll get to that as well. But after the 30 Years' War, this peace is going to set up Europe moving forward from here on out. It gives more power to these absolutists, as we'll see. It limits the power of religion. And in fact, the Holy Roman Emperor basically loses all his power. He's in an emperor in name only. And the quote that Tom Ritchie uses is Voltaire's, where he says, "The Holy Roman Empire is neither holy nor Roman nor an empire as a result of the 30 Years' War." Moving forward from here, we're going to see some big impact. The political power has changed. It is no longer based on religion. It's going to be based on how this sovereignty works, who is in charge. We'll see the rise of the absolutists moving forward into the next day. We'll also start to see religious tolerance, religious tolerance of Christians in Europe. And we'll see the change of warfare. In the Swedish phase of the war, Gustavus Adolphus he's known as the father of modern warfare because he uses lighter cannons, mobile cannons, in order to be very, very successful. And we've seen now artillery being used in the midst of the battle as opposed to it being strictly a defensive proposition. And that's going to eliminate things like extensive use of cavalry, because even if you're a knight and you have all this armor on, you can't hurt a cannonball. It will hurt you first. Okay. Type 2 writing we'll get to tomorrow. So if you're watching this the day that you were absent, don't worry about it. We'll get to that tomorrow. But here's what I do need you to complete. I've listed online some excerpts from the treaty itself in English, not Latin. And for this treaty, we want to kind of focus on two things here. What will the impact of this be on Europe, and kind of go into a little bit of detail? And how does this relate to the concept of absolutism? You should have already hit that point in your textbook reading, and so I'm looking for you to kind of show that causal relationship there. I don't need anything big. I don't need anything formal. It can simply be just jotting down some ideas, highlighting some passages, and giving some additional commentary on those. But that's going to be the focus of the beginning part of our discussion tomorrow. Please let me know if you need anything, and I will see you then. Have a great day.